What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video, and today we're doing our 7th team on our draft recap list. That's going to be the Jacksonville Jaguars. Listen, the Jaguars are coming off a 10-6 season last year that nobody think that they would actually do. They had one of the best defenses in the NFL. They still remain to do that this year, but on offense, they weren't very good last year, but on offense, they were even worse this year. They don't have Allen Robinson. They don't have Allen Hurns. Leonard Fournette was banged up all year. On top of that, when he came in, he really barely did anything. They really couldn't get anything going on offense. They have no wide receivers, no tight ends. The offensive line is pretty bad. I mean, the Jacksonville Jaguars really struggled. Blake Bortles played terribly. He wound up being benched for Cody Kessler, like the failed quarterback project in Cleveland. So the Jacksonville Jaguars couldn't get anything going. They wound up being 5-11 last in the AFC South. You know, they were on top of the AFC South, and it went all the way down to the basement. You got the Colts, you got the Houston Texans, you got the Titans on the rise, and the Jacksonville Jaguars are by themselves at the bottom. So you look at the Jacksonville Jaguars. What happened? Well, they let a lot of guys go in free agency. Why? They're in cap hell right now. They're negative $7.6 million above the cap. And I'm going to tell you guys the move that they can do on their roster to restructure contracts to cut players in order to get some cap going, and you can get some kind of free agents in the upcoming free agent class, or draft some guys as well. But you guys are $7.6 million above the cap. So let's start off with your best game, with the Jacksonville Jaguars' best game, and obviously that was Week 2 against the New England Patriots, where they started off beating the Giants, then they beat the New England Patriots 31-20 Week 2. So that was a very good game by Jacksonville. Then we thought by Week 2, we thought Jacksonville was the same team of last year. They're just carrying over. You know, they beat the Giants 20-15. Now they're beating the New England Patriots 31-20. So we're thinking that we're seeing a whole new Jacksonville team, the same Jacksonville team. We're not seeing the bad ones, and that didn't show up. So we now move to their worst game, and that was against the Dallas Cowboys in Week 6 when they got beat 40-7 in a massacre at Jerry World. So let's go over the team stats. We got points per game, 15.3 points per game, guys. 15.3 points per game. That's nothing. That's bare minimum. I mean, the Giants had offensive struggles for a long time, and I think the lowest we ever got was when we went 11-5 or something like that. In 2016, we went 11-5, and we had like 18 or 19 points per game, and that was terrible. This team is scoring 15 points a game. That's just over 2 touchdowns. The Arizona Cardinals, who have the worst record in the NFL right now, had 14 points per game, and they went 3-13, and they're drafting first overall this year. So we look at total yards per game. They're 27th in the league with total yards per game. They're just scratching 300 with 302. They have 194 pass yards per game. That is 26th in the league, and their rushing is 19th in the league. You know, they have a decent run game with TJ Yeldon and Leonard Fournette. It's decent. It isn't anything special. And then they have Blake Bortles there at quarterback that rushes the ball as well. So we then move on to the defensive stats. They're giving up 19.8 points per game. That is great. That's 4th in the league. They're giving up 311 yards per game total. That's 5th in the league. 194 pass yards, just like what the offense is putting up. But 194 pass yards per game. That's 2nd in the league. And then you have they are 19th in rush defense with 116 yards per game. The rush defense is all right. I mean, obviously, some teams are going to struggle in rush defense. 19th in the league is not terrible, so I'm not going to hold that against them. You know, not every super defense is going to, you know, be great against everything. Obviously, the run is what they struggle at, and they're not even struggling like most of these teams are in the NFL right now. We look at their total sacks right now. They were 37th in sacks, which is a little low, in my opinion, being with how much talent they have there on that defensive line, in that linebacking core. I thought they would have a better sack total. They're only 7 above the Giants, so their pass rush obviously struggled just a tad bit, and they gave up 53 sacks, so obviously their offensive line does need to get better. They dealt with tons of injuries on their offensive line, guys. I'm talking tons. Not one starter remained on that offensive line, guys. Not one. So everybody was hurt on that offensive line. Their turnover ratio totaled at -12. So that is obviously not a good sign. -12 on the turnover ratio. You guys know with Blake Bortles, you know, he's an interception machine, fumble machine. So obviously you're going to get that with Blake Bortles. So you look at the player stats now. You have Blake Bortles, Balake Bortles, as Key and Peele would say it. So 2,718 yards, a 60.3 completion percentage, 13 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, sacked 31 times, and a QBR, a quarterback rating, not a QBR, sorry, quarterback rating of 79.8. That's obviously from 0 to 158.3. That's the stat I'm using. 79.8 quarterback rating. Then you have Cody Kessler, who was starting in relief of Blake Bortles. 709 yards, 64.9 completion percentage, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, sacked 22 times. That is a ridiculous number for how much times he was starting. Yeah, he wasn't starting much, and a quarterback rating that's surprisingly lower than Blake Bortles at 77.4. That's how you know Blake Bortles is not going to be the option for the Jaguars in the future. I obviously think they're going quarterback this year in the draft. That is obviously going to happen. Blake Bortles is not going to live through his contract. I believe he has two or three more years left in his contract, which he just signed last year. So I obviously don't think he's going to live out through that contract. You know, he was benched for Cody Kessler this year, so obviously they're not trying to move on with Blake Bortles. We look at the run game. Leonard Fournette did not play too much in this season, but when he did, he could not get anything going on the ground. We're talking about 133 attempts, 439 yards, 3.3 yards per carry, and 5 touchdowns. TJ Yeldon, 104 attempts, 414 yards, 4 yards a carry, and 1 touchdown. Blake Bortles had himself 365 yards on the ground on his own to add to his 2,700 yards. Your leading receiver for the Jaguars is not very good. You have Dede Westbrook, who is a very good slot receiver, but is not going to be a very good number one. They need to find somebody to be that number one wide receiver. Dede Westbrook, 66 receptions, 717 yards, and 5 touchdowns. You have TJ Yeldon that had 486 yards and 4 touchdowns. Keelan Cole, 491 and 1 touchdown. You look at the defensive side of the ball. Total tackles right now, Telvin Smith with 134 tackles, 100 solos, so he remains a cornerstone for that defense, especially in the tackling area. Then you look at Myles Jack, who switched over from outside linebacker to middle linebacker where he belongs, at 107 tackles and 75 solos, so he's doing a very good job for you guys there. Just 2 tacklers with 100 tackles total is very good, and you can obviously tell that defense is very, very stout. You look at the sacks, total sacks. You have old man Calais Campbell at about 37 years old or so. Calais Campbell, 12.5 sacks, remains a complete monster on that defensive line, whether he's at defensive tackle or defensive end. Then you have Yannick Ngakowe that he's really, I mean, this guy, Yannick Ngakowe, he's one of the most underrated defensive ends in the NFL. He came in the league, I believe he had just over 10 sacks in the league. I think he had 14 or something like that, or 12, or I don't know. I think he had over 10 sacks his rookie year. A lot of people thought he was a one-hit wonder, and here he is, I believe, in his 3rd or 4th year, and he has 9.5 sacks still. So Yannick Ngakowe has become a very good pass rusher in this league, very underrated. And you guys only got him for about a 3rd-round pick, I believe. So great job for you guys there. So I want to take a look at this depth chart before we get into the draft class for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I do want to get into the depth chart. You have the line as of right now, the offensive line as of right now. This is with all the injuries and guys like that. So you have the starting line from left to right. Left tackle Eric Flowers, Jesus Lord. Left guard Patrick Omameh, who is also on the Giants, Jesus Lord. And he was also with the Jacksonville Jaguars before being signed to the Giants. Now he moves back with the Jacksonville Jaguars. At center, you have Tyler Shatley. At right guard, you have A.J. Cann, so okay, not a bad option there at right guard. And then right tackle Corey Robinson. Who are these guys? Who are these guys? You had a lot of guys injured, guys. A lot of guys injured. You guys had Cameron Robinson Cam Robinson from Alabama, the left tackle. A lot of people have some mixed opinions on Cam Robinson, so but he's not a bad option at left tackle. He was put on IR. Your $16 million guard, who thank God the Giants did not sign. Your $16 million guard in Andrew Norwell was put on IR. At left guard, and then you have Brandon Linder. I believe he's your center. Brandon Linder was put on IR as well. So you guys had a bunch of injuries. I think you guys had another injury, if I'm not mistaken, on that offensive line. Josh Walker, I believe. Oh, Jeremy Parnell. How can I forget about Jeremy Parnell at right tackle? He was also put on IR. I mean, you guys had an amazing amount of injuries. I believe Brandon Linder was a center. So you guys had all your offensive linemen injured besides AJ Cann. He was the last man standing, and nobody is putting in any work on this offensive line. That's why there was a total of 53 sacks given up. Especially 22 towards the end of the season, where Cody Kessler only threw for 709 yards and was sacked for 22 times. So, I mean, that's insane. So, moving on, you guys definitely need to find some better offensive line help. Yes, your offensive line is decent when all your guys are healthy there, but you guys do need some upgrades there on offensive line anyway. So, let's take a look at your 2018 draft class. We're going to start off with defensive tackle Taven Bryan, and this is another situation where he just doesn't fit the scheme. He's better as an interior pass rusher. They're trying to use him as an outside pass rusher, and they're saying that he's better on the inside as an interior pass rusher. He says himself that he's very critical of himself, that he feels like he's better as a pass rusher, but he has to work better at stopping the run. So that's obviously a big need there for Taven Bryan. So we'll see what he does in his sophomore season. He may just take a little time getting his groove on with at that defensive line. Remember, he's behind a lot of guys on that defensive line. He's behind a lot of guys there, but they're saying that he's better in the interior. He's better as an interior pass rusher, so hopefully they use him as an interior pass rusher in the future. I think they're going to start getting rid of Marcel Darius and guys like that. The older guys are taking up big contracts, so we'll see what happens. You look at your second round pick, DJ Chark. DJ Chark barely did anything this year. He was struggling with injuries on top of that. So, we'll see what happens with DJ Chark. But I believe he totaled just about like 100 yards or something like that total for the season. Correct me if I'm wrong. But he has not done much this season for you guys. Struggling with injuries. He has to find a way up that depth chart and try to make some plays for you guys. You guys had Ronnie Harrison, who had some playing time. Actually started for you guys as well. But he wound up on IR. So that's not a good look there. Your three guys in and not very big impacts there for your top three draft picks. You look at Will Richardson, who wound up on the IR himself, so another guy on the IR. Then you look at your 6th round pick, Tanner Lee at quarterback. He was put onto the practice squad, so no impact there. Leon Jacobs, also another guy on IR. And then you guys have probably your best draft pick so far in Logan Cooke, who was your 7th round pick, who probably had the most playing time at punter. So he was your punter there. So that's pretty much all your guys there at your 2018 draft class. I did the whole research on the draft class before a while ago. I just couldn't remember. That's why I can't remember all the stats for them and things like that. But most of these guys ended up on your IR or didn't have big impacts for you. So the draft class was not very spectacular for the Jaguars. They definitely need to come back stronger with their draft classes. They have one of the better rosters in the NFL as far as the defensive side of the ball goes, but the offensive side of the ball needs to get better. So let's look at your free agents right now, and let's look at your free agents right now, and let's start off with the roster moves that need to happen in order for you guys to be able to sign these free agents. All right, you're gonna have to make some roster moves to sign your free agents. We're moving on to free agents now, but we're going to have to talk about these roster moves before we could sign any free agents, because you are $7.6 million above the cap. So you got to get under that cap there. So let's start off with Malik Jackson. Listen, Malik Jackson shouldn't be needed as a $15 million defensive tackle, okay? He's due to make $15 million next year. You can cut him for a $4 million dead cap. Only $4 million in dead cap. You need to make this move instantly. You will be under the cap right there. So, next up, Calais Campbell. Yes, Calais Campbell is a huge part of that defense. 12.5 sacks last year. He's done nothing to warrant his release. But you guys are in cap hell right now. You need to make some drastic decisions here. $14.5 million he's due in 2019. You're going to have to cut him for an astounding $3 million in cap. So the Jaguars did a great job in negotiating their deals. Now, they don't have to give out a lot of money when they want to cut players. They're only giving out a total of $7 million in dead cap from these two players alone that are making over $14 million in the next season. So think about it. You're saving an astounding amount of cap, guys. You think about it. About 14.5 plus 15 is $29.5 million just in these two players. And if you cut these players, you have to suffer a $7 million cap. You're saving $22 million right there. You have $22 million in cap right there. So you move on. You should cut AJ Bouye as well. Listen, you're going to have to drop the corner or two. You have to pick one up in free agency or whatever, but you guys can't keep a super team forever, okay? These guys are demanding money. You guys can't give out money to everybody. This isn't the Major League Baseball. This isn't Major League Baseball, okay? So you have a cap. You have to stick to that cap. Super teams can't last forever. Super defenses can't last forever. You guys are going to have to part ways with AJ Bouye as well. He's due to make $15 million next year, 15.4. And if you cut him, he'll suffer a $6 million dead cap. You guys will suffer a $6 million dead cap, which is fine. You guys save about $7 million in cap, $7.4 million in cap. So you guys are going to be just fine. So think about it. If you guys cut these three players, you guys have like $27 million in cap right there. So, and then you got to pay for your being above the cap. So you guys just talk about $20 million right there in cap. You guys can make some moves. You guys can sign some free agents. You guys can do something. Get that offense going. You guys can draft some defensive talent in the future, but get that offense going. Try to get some guys in free agency for your offense, please. So let's talk about your wide receivers right now. You have Dante Moncrief. I think you should re-sign him. He's a good option there. I don't think you should let him go. He's not really a number one wide receiver, but where are you gonna find a number one wide receiver? That's not in this draft. That's not in free agency. So you guys are gonna have to deal with what you got. You move on. Running back Corey Grant. He's going to be a cheap option for you guys. He's a good return man. Good on special teams. He's a good option at speed back for you on the offense. Go ahead and remain with Corey Grant. Go ahead and resign him. TJ Yeldon. I think he's going to want a bigger deal, obviously, because he could be, he's a very good complimentary back, but I think you guys can go elsewhere with TJ Yeldon. He's going to want some bigger money. You guys don't have the cap for that. You guys can let him go. Guard Tyler Shatley, I believe he was at center with you guys. You guys can let him go if you guys really need to, but if you guys need offensive line help, like you guys do need, try to resign him just for the training camp and things like that. AJ Cann, he's been the Iron Man for you guys with Jacksonville, so go ahead and resign AJ Cann. Right tackle Josh Wells, you can resign him. Patrick Omame, he's probably just going to leave in free agency once again, so we'll see what happens there. I guess he's a good option for you guys at depth guard, but just make sure he doesn't start for you guys. You look at kicker Kai Forbath, you guys are having kicker problems as well, but I think Josh Lambo is the better option. You guys can let go of Kai Forbath. You guys have fullback Tommy Bohannon, go ahead and resign him. He's one of the better fullbacks in the league. Right tackle Eric Flowers, he's a depth guy. He's a swing tackle at best. Make sure you resign him to just be a swing tackle. Make sure he does not win a job for you guys at one of these tackle spots. Wide receiver Rashawn Green, he hasn't done much for you guys. Just let him go. You look at kicker Josh Lambo. Go ahead and re-sign Josh Lambo. He's been one of the better kickers for you guys when he was healthy. So go ahead and resign Josh Lambo. And James O'Shaughnessy at tight end. I mean, okay, if you want to resign him, I don't really care. So, we're going to move on to the top 3 needs for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And listen, the Jacksonville Jaguars, I'm sure they're going to get their offense going in the future. John DeFilippo is a very good offensive coordinator. I know in his time with the Minnesota Vikings, it doesn't look like it, but it just wasn't a match there in Minnesota. I think he can do some work here in Jacksonville. Like I said, I don't think it's going to revive Blake Bortles' career or even ascend it for that matter or make it any better, but I think they're going to get the offense to where it's going to be decent. I think he's going to get to that offense. I think he's going to get it to the point where the offense is going to be decent, and then eventually they're going to let go of Blake Bortles and get themselves a better quarterback in the future. So I think John DeFilippo, that hiring is good for Jacksonville. You look at the top 3 needs for Jacksonville right now. I'm going to say, first up, it's quarterback. You need to get better at quarterback. I've said this since Blake Bortles had his freshman season. After his freshman season, they will never go anywhere with Blake Bortles. They went to the playoffs last year. That's pretty much the farthest they're going to go. They'll never make a playoff run. They'll never make a Super Bowl run with Blake Bortles at quarterback. Doesn't matter how good your defense is, that offense will never succeed under Blake Bortles. They need to make a change at quarterback. We'll see. Dwayne Haskins is there. I think he's a good fit there in Jacksonville. And then another fit there will be Drew Lock. So we'll see what happens there. But wide receiver is another thing. You guys need to try to find a wide receiver. I know Hollywood Brown is probably the best wide receiver option right now. Or you guys got those guys from Ole Miss, A.J. Brown and DK Metcalf. Some bigger options for you guys. You guys need a bigger wide receiver. Your wide receivers are pretty small here. You got Dante Moncrief if you resign him. Keelan Cole is another small guy. Dede Westbrook is tiny. So you guys are in a situation like the Giants were in for a while. I could relate to that. I'm a Giants fan. You guys were in that situation where you guys have a bunch of small receivers. You guys need a bigger possession red zone threat. And on top of that, you guys don't even have a tight end, so you guys can't even score in the red zone. So we'll see what happens there for the Jacksonville Jaguars, but they need a number 1 wide receiver, preferably a big one. And then you guys have tight end. So we're going to go over the free agents right now. Let's not talk about the draft right now. Let's talk about free agents. So look at the wide receiver options for free agents right now. It's not very good. There's no number 1 wide receivers. There's no big, tall wide receivers to go after here. You guys have a Cole Beasley who's 30 years old. You guys have Golden Tate who's 31 years old. Tavon Austin, not good. Dante Moncrief is with you guys. Randall Cobb at 29. I think Chris Hogan would be a good option for you guys. He's not tiny, but he's not big either. But you guys need a big red zone threat if you guys are not going to go after a tight end. Let's go after tight end as well. These tight ends are pretty weak at tight end. So at tight end, you guys can spend, if you want to spend big money. I don't think you can spend big money because Tyler Eifert, I'm going to talk about Tyler Eifert. Tyler Eifert, you can sign to a cheap deal just because he has injury problems. So, obviously, he's not going to demand a big contract. He knows he has injury problems. So, I don't think his agent is really going to put up a big contract for him to try to get. But Tyler Eifert is a good option at 28 years old. He's pretty young. Luke Wilson at 29 years old. Mercedes Lewis, he's with you guys. He was with you guys. Now he's in Green Bay, but he's 35. Demetrius Harris from Kansas City would be a good option for you guys. Demetrius Harris would be a great option for you guys. Max Williams in Baltimore, he's going to be pushed out of Baltimore because they drafted 2 tight ends in the past draft in Hayden Hurst and the other dude, what's his name? Mark Andrews or something like that. Hayden Hurst and Mark Andrews, something like that. So Max Williams is going to be pushed out of Baltimore. So he's a good option for you guys at Jacksonville. So you guys have some options there. I have some honorable mention needs as well, and that is offensive line and cornerback. Like I said, this would be if they decide to get rid of AJ Bouye. They have other guys there like of course Jalen Ramsey, but you need some depth there at Jacksonville, and I think AJ Bouye being cut, you guys are going to need some cornerback help there. So let's look at some cornerbacks that you guys can sign. There are some decent cornerbacks in this free agent class, none of them of which obviously are going to merit some big contracts. They're not going to be big options for you guys like to replace Jalen Ramsey or anything. But there'll be some good number 2 options for you guys. So first up, Mo Claiborne from the Jets. He can be a good option for you guys. You guys got Rashawn Melvin from Oakland. EJ Gaines from Cleveland. You guys have Justin Coleman from Seattle, who's put up a name for himself in Seattle. Not a very good corner, but he's pretty decent. Kayvon Webster, who started for Houston, but I don't believe he started. I believe he was injured for Houston for quite a while. So there's that. You guys have Bradley Roby, who's a very, very interesting prospect. Bradley Roby from Denver. You can expect to try to sign him. He's only 27 years old, so he's pretty fresh. So you guys can try to sign him. So those are the free agents you guys can go after. And as far as drafting, guys, you guys are drafting 7th overall. If the Giants don't pick up Dwayne Haskins, you better pick up Dwayne Haskins. He will be a good fit there for Jacksonville. So we'll see what happens there. So that is the 2018 season recap and 2019 season preview for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Any Jacksonville fans out there, make sure you guys subscribe, leave a like on the video, comment your thoughts on what I think about your team. Listen, the Jacksonville Jaguars just need to get their offense going. It's not that hard, but they're in cap hell right now because they created a super team on that defense, and they need to downgrade a little bit so they can upgrade the offense. They got to try to find that balance. They went all out on defense, and they did not pay attention to their offense, and you guys see what happened. They went 5-11, and their defense really didn't take part in them winning games whatsoever. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. You guys just need to up your offense, and yeah, see you guys in the next video.